You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Welcome back to the Eternal Tournament Series. We're in round 3 of Season 2, week number 5. We are bringing you another exciting matchup here between Argenport and Zenon. I am Calamdeer, and joining me in the booth to break down all the action is Sir Rhino.
Hello, hello. Yes, thank you. And yeah, as you said, Zenon versus Argenport. Serb bringing what I would consider basically stock Argenport at this point, where it's a pretty aggressively tilted deck, but still has a respectable top end with the Tavrod Inquisitor's Blade game plan. But in the meantime, just getting really aggressive. Those 8 Warcry 2-drops to pressure, buff up the rest of the units out of Hailstorm range, and keep the ball rolling. On the other side is SecondBlue with a Zenon mid-range list that's pretty big as far as Zenon goes, right? It's not big Zenon where it's playing straight into shadows or things like that, but still 3 Mystic Ascendant, 3 Carnosaur, 4 World Bear Behemoth at the top end is pretty clunky. And while Zenon can have a really nice matchup against Argenport, I'm not convinced this one is going to. Only 2 Varus choice, no Blister Sting Wasp, which is traditionally one of the best cards you can have against Argenport in terms of stalling them out. And SecondBlue just is going to be real slow to get going and getting either setting up Dawnwalkers or Interrogators backed up by Zenon Initiation and Dark Return. Those cards have pretty significant drawbacks when your curve doesn't start until 3 drops.
Yeah, I think SecondBlue's list is tuned for a slower metagame with a lot of these more value-oriented units being included. Mystic Ascendants and Dawnwalkers is usually not in the same deck. So seeing that together is just a big tell. It's like, okay, I'm expecting Jotun Feast Callers. I'm expecting tons of removal and in Cold Bloods and things like that. And we're just going to outgrind all of that. But here comes, Argenport mid-range to say, hey, still respect aggro. Here comes Rip Knife Assassin.
Yeah, so I think SecondBlue could end up really struggling in this matchup if Serb gets off to the typical starts that Argenport can, where they get that 2-drop down. If SecondBlue's not on the play and has the ions ready to go and get in front of those, he could really be in for some trouble.
Yeah, so I think as we've established, Argenport is a bit favored in this matchup, just because of the way SecondBlue's deck is tuned. But let's not forget that Ion is definitely a real card. If a Dawnwalker comes down and an initiation gets on it unanswered, that's still going to close the game out. So this is going to be an interesting matchup either way. And then post board, we have the banishes and all kinds of stuff. So a lot could happen.
Yes.
And yeah, like you said, Serb on a pretty stock Argenport list. There's basically now Argenport is one of the only lists that we really have super tuned, and we only have 3 or 4 flex slots, like 2, 3 Vanquish, and how many Inquisitor Blades. But it looks like players are getting into the match.
Yeah, SecondBlue just really wants to get this to a board stall, as you said. Then he can leverage Mystic Ascendant, Carnosaur, Killer Dawnwalkers, those sorts of things. The problem is getting there, and we'll see if he'll get the time afforded to him to do so, as Serb has 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop in hand.
Yeah, and he has the influence for it as well. Just needs to draw 1 more power, and I think with the Scout and several turns, it shouldn't be much of a problem.
Yeah.
SecondBlue, on the other hand, has the turn to a Varus choice, which is really his only relevant thing to do on turn 2 in this matchup, and that's going to be very powerful here.
And I think it's going to take this Unseen Commando as it's able to pump up these pair of Crown Watch Paladins past an Ion. Without that, Ion just eats them. So I think that's what I would take here if I was SecondBlue, and that's what we see get ripped out of Serb's hand.
Yeah, especially when he already has 2 Crown Watch Paladins, so there's no way you're making him skip a turn or anything like that. So I think just going for the safe Ion play here is correct.
And this is the power of Ion, where even if you don't have it, you could bluff it here and really make Serb hesitate. Now, SecondBlue does have it, but opts to play out the Interrogator here maybe as kind of removal bait.
Yeah, and I think that's safe too, because he saw most of Serb's hand. Most of Serb's hand was units, so he has a pretty good idea of how much power and potentially maybe 1 spell was in there. And so playing out this 4-3 demands an answer, and then if it does get answered, Ion is just going to clean up.
And this is where things could have really spiraled in SecondBlue's favor if he had drawn either a Dark Return or a Zenith Initiation. Like Zenith, when it gets to untap with the unit in play, can get really scary really fast. But Serb dodges that nightmare scenario and instead is just staring down a bunch of pretty strong units.
Yeah, and Crown Watch Trader going to come down here on turn 4. Serb still curving out, and a second Crown Watch Trader going to come down next turn. Death Strike off the top for SecondBlue going to come in pretty clutch here because that Crown Watch Trader can get past all of SecondBlue's units right now.
Yeah, SecondBlue may wait on this Death Strike, though I don't think you cast it here. As Serb isn't playing Protect, only playing Sabotage, so you can Death Strike in response to Sabotage. It still lets you hold up Ion. It gives you a shot at them maybe playing out a weapon on Trader, although if they have a weapon, it will probably go on Paladin, assuming it gives it flying. But if it is a Bloodletter, that would not go on a Paladin, as it would just trade with Interrogator. So yeah, wisely holds on to the Death Strike, waits to see if you can get a little more out of it.
Yeah, and SecondBlue not playing In Cold Blood, playing Death Strike, which I still love Death Strike. I love playing at fast speed, so I definitely respect that. In Cold Blood, though, and that's
a double block.
Interesting.
Okay. Really valuing this Death Strike as an answer to Tavrod.
Yeah.
You'd much rather trade an Interrogator off instead of a Death Strike. And a Devastating Setback is the draw here. Can pop some Aegises or go fishing in the hand. It's been a while since SecondBlue's seen the hand. I think he might just hold up Death Strike here, though.
Yeah, I think it ends up being about the same, the Ion play versus Death Strike, because the had he used the first Death Strike on the first Crown Watch Paladin, he would have just had to make the double block on the second one anyway. And this is an interesting attack.
Yeah, this is if you block with Trader, I get to set back, pop 2 Aegises, and kill off your Trader. So you're trading Ion and a setback for a Trader and 2 Aegis pops. I don't know if I love that. But popping Aegis is pretty valuable here when you also have Varus Favor to finish off another one.
Yeah, and then you only have the one Crown Watch Paladin to deal with, and you can play your Dawnwalker, which can deal with that nicely. So I don't mind this play. I guess he just really values that Death Strike. It does save your Death Strike, which makes you not dead to Tavrod off the top or next turn.
I think the one issue with this Ion attack, and it ended up working out because they did block, was if they didn't block, they're getting 2 War Cries and swinging in. And what are you doing? Playing a Dawnwalker to block a Crown Watch Paladin?
Yeah, if Serb doesn't block, Serb is in a commanding position. And here's that Tavrod we talked about. So Death Strike going to be forced out of the hand here.
Yeah, I doubt you can afford to just play Sandstorm Titan to bounce block Tavrod. Cannot afford to let it get any swings in. So there we see the Death Strike come down.
And Sabotage a little late.
Yeah, Serb might sit on it, but when you're playing against an opponent that has Dark Return and other spells like that require setup and can get stranded in hand, I don't mind playing out Sabotage like that rather than waiting.
And now SecondBlue, I was going to say firmly in the driver's seat, but here comes a 6/5 Auric Interrogator. Those War Cries hit a really powerful target.
Yeah, not only was it 1 War Cry, it was 2. So that 5 health means it can block everything here as well. And SecondBlue still, though, can swing with the Dawnwalker. He's a Varus favor deck, so Serb will respect that. And now he's going to start digging deep into his deck. Already got 1 trigger off Interrogator, about to get a second.
And another Tavrod off that Interrogator. But SecondBlue has his own value engine online now with this Mystic Ascendant able to come down this turn. And SecondBlue really leveraging the mind game here. I mean, obviously, yes, they just have Varus Favor and you just know that there are things. But SecondBlue being so willing to trade in units with Setback and Varus Favor earlier in the game, I think puts Serb a little more on edge here for this Dawnwalker attack.
Yeah, and this is the power of Dawnwalker. When it can just come back whenever in the mid to late game, it can add up for some real chip damage as gets a trade-off with Crown Watch Paladin. And now, Mystic Ascendant will try and even out the card advantage that this Auric Interrogator has been building.
And Worldbearer is going to very quickly put SecondBlue ahead as far as card advantage. If Second Blue can find a way to deal with this Rip Knife Assassin, but even so, it still takes out a card. And oh wow, speaking of,
Holy
okay,
cow. We going off here. World Bear Behemoth can eat up either Tavrod or Auric Interrogator here.
yeah, and draw a card off of his trigger, and then when it attacks, and if it even trades with Rip Knife there, it's still going to be drawing 2 cards off the second trigger. So very powerful, looking very dominant for Second Blue.
Yeah. So this is a tough choice, right? The Interrogator draws cards by simply existing. Tavrod has to swing, but Tavrod's much more devastating as far as a target goes for Inquisitor's Blade, which is one of the few cards Serb could draw here that to get him back into this game. So that's what you've got to balance out here is what are you most scared of? What can Serb find that gets him out? And I think Tavrod leads to more surer paths to victory, and I like using Behemoth on that here.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. I don't think Inquisitor's Blade is really that threatening when there's a Sandstorm Titan, but it does have Revenge.
So, yeah, good point.
Yeah, but I think that something like a Rune Hammer off the top with Tavrod is just going to be a lot more relevant than anything that Interrogator is going to draw outside of a Slay.
Yeah, good point there. Sandstorm Titan was in play. Is hard to remember because we hadn't seen any flyers for a while. Normally, Argentport finds an Enforcer or a Commando at some point, but the only flyer we saw got hit by Varus Choice very early on.
Yeah, and at this point now, there's just way too much card advantage on the side of Second Blue, and Second Blue being the more controlling, slower deck is just going to continue to pile on the value.
Easy A space here. This Mystic Ascendant has to be chump blocked because it's super massive, and then the rest of the
and Serb's just like, we're done here. We're done here. That's a respectable choice.
And that's what we talked about. Second Blue wanted to get to the board saw, wanted to grind it out. Serb actually managed to keep up, though, with that Interrogator activation, but eventually couldn't find a removal spell for Mystic Ascendant, and the Mystic Ascendant Behemoth initiation combo just took over.
Yeah, we were talking about how Second Blue not having a lot of options in the early game, but they had the Varus Choice, they had the Ion, and they had the Interrogator early. And that really put a stop to any aggro that Serb was trying to put down with those 2 Crown Watch Paladins. Had it been multiple Rip Knife Assassins, we might have seen a slightly different game, but completely stopped in its tracks.
Yeah, the story of that game was Varus Choice. If that didn't take Unseen Commando, those Paladins would have been 3/2s attacking every turn, and Second Blue would have had nothing to get in their way to stop them. And so Varus Choice doing a lot of work very early on in that game, and it had a cascading effect throughout the rest of it.
Right. So now that we're moving into the sideboard, I think it really only gets better for Second Blue, right? Or am I missing something here?
I think I can agree with that in terms of being able to lower his curve in terms of interaction. There's some Annihilates, Varus Choices, and Banishes that can all come in. Scorpion Wasp not too shabby either, to be honest. So Second Blue can really tweak the removal to a spot where he's happy, lower the curve, still keep the good top end, though, of Behemoth, Ascendant, Carnosaur, more just change up some other things like Devastating Setback, not particularly useful. We saw it do some work in that game, but that was more just because Second Blue found the right line and Serb played into it. I don't think you can rely on that going into future games in this match.
Yeah, but it's not all doom and gloom as far as Serb's side is concerned. The Sabotage, Annihilate, Protects all seem very good in this matchup.
Yeah, Finest Hour not too shabby either against a deck deploying Killer as removal, but 2 Annihilates is huge against Predatory, Carnosaur, Mystic Ascendant decks, and also hit Sandstorm Titan if you're on the beat them down with flyers plan. So that's a big game. And again, it's when Annihilate's good, it's the best card in the game, right? It's just so cheap, so efficient. So being able to leverage that on both ends will be really important.
And Finest Hour, like you said, pretty good against Killer, also very good against Ion. When you're relying on that ambush effect to be removal and get you back into the game, and you just lose your Ion, and your opponent still gets to keep getting in the next turn, that's just such a huge tempo loss for 1 power. So we'll see if Serb decides to put that in, because outside of that situation, it could be very bad. It's not going to do much against some of the later game units, and it's not going to do much against removal. Yeah,
Serb also has 2 extra Vanquishes to bring in, so it'll be interesting to see if there's such a thing as too much removal, like what number they're comfortable with hitting in terms of how much removal they have post board, because they start in the main deck with just 2 Vanquish, 4 Slay, like 6 removal spells plus 2 Rune Hammers. And, are they willing to add in 4 more removal spells on top of that without cutting anything? Like then you might throw off your ratio of threats to removal.
Right. I think in this matchup where Serb clearly has to be the aggressor, I don't think you can afford to bring in very much removal. I think you can maybe cut down some slays for some cheaper removal, like go to 2 or 3 slays. And you can definitely cut the Rune Hammers, but outside of that, it's very difficult to make cuts.
Yeah. So we'll see how that pans out as the second game gets underway. And SecondBlue, slow start, but has at least good influence. That was the other worry we had with this Xenon deck, was it needed double shadow on turn 3 for some of its threats, but also needs
Serb.
3 and 4 time influence later on in the game.
Yeah, and it looks like he's gonna have that with the Amber Waystone plus the 2 Varus Favors. But Serb, not off to a lightning fast start, has this Monument in hand. Can't even play anything on turn 3. I'm surprised that he didn't play the Monument. He elected to play the other Sigil, which means cannot. Well, didn't matter. Didn't have the influence anyway to play the Interrogator. So it makes sense.
Yeah, I think that was the thought, was, I have to draw a shadow source here anyways, so I'll play out the sigils. But yeah, SecondBlue gets on the board first with a Sandstorm Titan. That'll eat and annihilate. Serb still has a Vanquish in as a backup, so World Bear Behemoth will get answered as well. But SecondBlue could opt to go Interrogator here instead. But man, Behemoth into Mystic Ascendant, that's tough to pass up on.
Yeah, this could be a very short match here, with SecondBlue already up a game and Serb not really having any proactive threats to play. Stuck on power.
Yeah, but it only takes them to finding one shadow source to get back in this. SecondBlue will use a setback here and probably rip out the 4-cost weapon, I would have to guess.
Yeah, but I think if this Mystic Ascendant goes unanswered for a turn or two, it's going to be too much for Serb to get back into, even if he draws the shadow source into another undepleted power.
I'm a little surprised to see this devastating setback still here post board. Like I didn't think it killed enough and was too slow as just a 3-cost sabotage. But it being too slow doesn't matter when your opponent's stuck on 3 power. And Serb finds a shadow source, but it's a Varus Favor, so still a turn away from casting anything.
And Varus choice is fine here. So now that you know that, so SecondBlue should know Serb's entire hand, because he saw the Inquisitor's Blade with the devastating setback and now sees that there are 4 units. So with that, he might elect to play something like Mystic Ascendant next turn, even if he doesn't draw power, just knowing that there's no answer for it. But we'll see.
Yeah, Serb is in pretty good shape here, all things considered. I mean, he's going to at least have one Auric Interrogator in hand that can pair very well with an Inquisitor's Blade, and SecondBlue's got to find an answer to that, because in the meantime, all he has is
Vanquish off the top is huge. Hiding that Vanquish from SecondBlue's original devastating setback is a big deal here.
Yep, so in comes the Interrogator. Serb doesn't want to trade it, has an Inquisitor's Blade of his own and a Slay off the top. And yeah, sometimes you get stuck on power, but that just means you're drawing action all over the place. And into the skies goes Interrogator, and that's going to get hit by Death Strike. So nice reprieve for SecondBlue here.
Yeah, had Serb just elected to play that Crown Watch Trader, I think we would have seen a much more difficult game. But SecondBlue still getting in for 4, still ahead on tempo, and gonna play out. So yeah, that information leads him to play this Mystic Ascendant, and Serb just drew 2 removal spells off the top.
Yeah, your opponent's stuck on power, so forcing them to either play removal or play a threat every turn means you should also be playing a removal or a threat every turn. Keep up with that.
But now the Mystic Ascendant is gone.
But double Vanquish.
Yeah, double Vanquish, and it's not out of the question for Serb to just win through card advantage.
Serb is way ahead here.
Yeah.
This at this point is, I don't even think it's close. Like that weapon's going to come back at some point if Serb still has a unit in play. Yeah, SecondBlue's got one banish, but Serb will have the last unit standing here. SecondBlue needs to rip like a Carnosaur off the top.
I love
something
that.
along those lines.
I love that SecondBlue drew Devastating Setback, and so he played the first Devastating Setback, saw no removal, and then 3 removal spells off the top. Well, surely there's not another
Ooh.
removal spell in his hand.
Dark Return here, but you didn't use Setback last turn to see if the coast was clear for something like Interrogator.
Yeah, because how could he have the 4th removal spell? Impossible.
I mean, if they're not playing power, it means they either have spells or units as their draw steps.
Exactly.
I don't know. Like, I'm just confused as to why Devastating Setback's still in. Like that was.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you there. And was that the right choice? Was it not Interrogator, you think?
I guess the thought was World Bear Behemoth just hits really, really hard, and
That's true.
it all gets slayed in the end. But Behemoth didn't replace itself with a draw step like Interrogator would have.
Right. And yeah, now Serb, I think, firmly in the driver's seat here. As long as he doesn't play this Bloodletter into an Annihilator Banish, I think there's a good shot that Serb closes this game out pretty quickly.
SecondBlue going to use the Annihilate here, knowing that simply by this Interrogator even being in play, there's that Inquisitor's Blade is lurking in the deck. It could come back at some point and get put on it anyways.
Wait, did SecondBlue not have power to play Banished at the end of Serb's turn? I'm confused.
He
just wanted to save it.
He chose to use Annihilate on the Interrogator instead of Banish because Banish could hit the Crown Watch Trader he knew about.
That's what I mean.
Sure.
I think a round of.
Got you.
But man, both
Mhm.
was that 2?
Yeah, that's 2 blades.
Wow.
SecondBlue got his Destiny Blade and then also drew a blade off the Destiny Blade and put that on Trader.
All right, now we're back to, I think, a fairly neutral state. Once again, Serb does still have the last remaining threat, but there's an Ion.
Ooh, yeah, an Ion buffed, maybe not recently, but has been buffed to the point now where you only need 8 power to activate it. So even if SecondBlue doesn't draw power, be able to activate that Ion next turn and bring back an absolutely massive World Bear Behemoth.
And Setback finds a relevant target, which at this point in the game is unlikely and very relevant.
Yeah. So here we see it. Ion welcomes, I'm guessing, a very big, 10-11 World Bear Behemoth to the fold. Swings in because, hey, you need chump blockers for this 10-11. And
okay, that's a start.
Yeah, that is a start. That's going to take Serb down to 6, but the difference between 6 and 7, not huge here. And more importantly, could find him something like another Annihilate, as Serb's only drawn 1 so far this game.
One of the biggest problems here being actually Ion's lifesteal, because if it was just chump blocking a 10-11 and then swinging in, Serb could win that race potentially, especially with this Bloodletter. But once Ion is comes into the equation and you're adding 6-9 life into it, it becomes much more difficult.
Yeah, but Serb did find a Bloodletter with this Interrogator, so we'll be able to gain 10, but that still would not be enough to live, just because these World Bear Behemoths are so large. So you might still have to swing and then hope to just draw Annihilate off of the Interrogator trigger anyways. Like, I think you're losing unless that's your draw step. So you might as well put on Bloodletter and swing.
Yep, because if you don't do that, you are just dead even if you chump the 10-11.
So, that's what we see Serb do. He knows basically it's Annihilator bust, so might as well swing.
Another Seed of Vengeance. So that's going to be 2-0 for SecondBlue.
Yeah, we talked about how this Xenon list maybe wasn't ideally set up to totally own Argenport, but still did a pretty good job of it, as we saw there. It looked like Serb had weathered the storm that second game and was just going to bury SecondBlue in the late game. And SecondBlue showing off what Xenon can do in the late game. Even if Ascendance and Carnosaurs didn't carry you, Ion and Dark Return can.
Yeah, I don't think that Argenport had particularly stellar hands either game and wasn't really able to get that dominant position in the early game and was forced to fight on Xenon's terms, and that's really what cost them the match.
Yeah, they didn't have particularly aggressive starts, which allowed Xenon to really pick and choose how to use their removal, and it made sure that SecondBlue removal lined up the way he wanted it to. The Death Strikes hit Tavrods, the Banishes hit uh, the 4-drop Crown Watch traders, and your Annihilates hit your Annihilate targets. And by having a slow, clunky start from Argenport afforded him that luxury.
Yeah, very good play by SecondBlue, especially in that first game where we saw him value the Death Strike super highly, and it paid off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so well played, well executed by SecondBlue, knowing what cards matter, what don't, how all the cards interact. And that's one of the downsides of playing a really well-known quantity like Argenport is players just get better and better at playing against your deck and recognizing what matters as you get those reps in. But the advantage is it's also a really finely tuned, well balanced deck.
Right. It looks like we have a backup match for you guys. Just give us a moment while we set that up. It's going to be Ben Buford versus The Rock, I believe. So let's take a look at what deck lists those are very quickly.
That's set up. Let's see. I believe The Rock The Rock is on just a Feln Feast Caller deck. So, 4 Champion of Cunning, 4 Joan Feast Caller, 4 Black Sky Harbinger, Feln stuff, right?
And
that's your top
so
end.
is Ben.
Oh, geez. We've got
but only 2 Feast Callers in his list.
Okay, yeah. It's not the straight mirror. Ben Buford going with a much bigger main deck. 2 Zindel's Gift main deck, 2 Thunderstrike Dragon, 2 Channel the Tempest. So going a bit bigger in that regard. But we are in game 3. Oh, never mind. I'm getting that it was actually a 2-0. And so never mind.
Well,
we got some bad results or bad
excellent
info.
coverage by us on that match. It was a great 2-0. Both players played hard.
All right, so we're still checking on some other possible backup matches. So bear with us here. We do see some players are still going at it.
So we have a couple matchups still going on. It looks like we have an Ikaria Blue versus Feln going on, and I'm not sure what else. We'll try and get you some action as soon as possible. In the meantime, how's your sealed pool looking?
No legends at all. It was all rares, which was a bit of a bummer, but it looked pretty promising. It had some bomb shadow flyers. Had both Umbran Reaper and Malediction Reader, so that's a good 1-2 punch if I can cast them off triple shadow. So I don't think it's quite as strong as my last month's sealed pool, but a pretty good looking one in terms of fixing and flexibility going forward as we get more packs.
Yeah, those are definitely 2 powerful limited cards. Sounds like your pool is a bit better than mine. I am 3 faction barely playables,
A sealed classic, if you
yes. It's actually a run back from my last event. So it looks like all of our matches are done.
Yeah.
For this round.
Yeah, just saw Crizalio clean up there.
We're gonna stop complaining about sealed and specifically Crown Watch Quartermaster. If you open that, I hate you.
Oh my god.
So and then we'll see you guys all next round for some more constructed tournament ETS action.